let people kind of, and and inevitably, people do circle back around, and you just ask them some good questions. I assume that everybody who walks into my open houses already has an agent, because you will catch them in the lie or not the lie. I just ask them, I will say, because they'll be, well, this is what we're looking for, and this is the area we want to be in, and I just ask them, I say, well, is your agent sending you properties that meet that criteria? And they either say yes, and then I ask who their agent is, and I make a note of it, and say, oh, I'd love to be able to send your agent a thank you note. Okay? When somebody says they don't know who their agent is, that's, light bulb, that you know that they're probably not working with someone. Seriously. Lots and lots of signs, balloons. I don't door knock. Never done it, never gonna do it, to be honest with you. Not gonna do it. And a lot of that had to do with my farming, because it was my neighborhood. I didn't want people to be like, oh, here comes the real estate lady. Now I get the opposite. People come to me and ask me about real estate, and I'm okay with not door knocking. I think I did it 2 times for an open house, and I just didn't see, and maybe it's my drunk monkey because I didn't see the return on it. Because I feel like I do enough outside of that brings, I've had a couple really awful open houses, but generally speaking, if I get at least 5 parties in an open house, it's a success. The reality is that all you really need is 1 if you get and it's just the follow-up. The follow-up is huge. You can have a great open house, but if you're not following up, it doesn't matter, right?
So, the one idea that you gave me, when we were sitting on the patio of Lord, I was like, I've never really asked you about your business. It was like the 15th time we've hung out, and I was like, what are some things that you do to lead generate that you don't think anybody else is doing? And you told me about the welcome to the neighborhood.
Oh, the card?
That does involve door knocking. Yeah,
maybe, it does,
but it's more of a place of, here I am, I'm being so sweet. So it makes you want to knock on the door.
And I do it in the farm.
Will you tell them what I'm
Yeah,
doing?
so.
Because it's pretty genius.
Yeah, it's whether you have a buyer or a seller. I do it on the listing side. Okay, so what happens is we have a listing in our farm, and we know we've got buyers moving in, they're all excited. And so what I do is I get a card and then have the neighbors sign it for the buyer and just say, welcome to the neighborhood. We've even done where we'll do a card, because we're the listing agent, we have access to the home, and maybe leave some like those Papagino, those heat up pizzas with some waters and stuff in the refrigerator. So it's just a nice touch, because I was of the mindset that there's no way you're going to get those buyers then as a client years down the road. And what's amazing is because if you develop market share in a neighborhood, you're going to be the first of mind.
Mm-hmm. So you do that for a listing that you have to welcome buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And if she has a buyer moving into a neighborhood, she'll also know that neighborhood.
Yeah. We've also done where I felt last year we were not getting, our farm was not good to us, and we were good to the farm. And I'll tell you more about that, what some of the things that we do in the farm. There was just no turnover, and the turnover was lower, okay, and I was competing, I wasn't even getting the phone call to get in the door. And I was like, well, why is this happening? Yet no one had market share. And a lot of it was discount brokerage, people leading with commission cutting. I could do it for 4.5%. Well, guess what? Karen Scully is never gonna do it for 4.5% unless it's a dire situation for my sellers. So last year was a miserable year for our farm, and interestingly enough, Mark Watson and I would talk about this a lot because he did farming at a high level in his neighborhood, and I think Mark said he had like one or two listings last year, and that's what we had, coming from like maybe 10. So that's huge. That is huge. So despite that, we didn't stop our farming efforts. So last year, so we do a lot of events in the neighborhood, and it coming from contribution standpoint. So the first thing that we did, something that I did last year that I've never done before, is we have a clubhouse, and so I did a welcome to the neighborhood party for buyers because I was dying to get sellers, and then we invited everybody in the neighborhood. welcome to the neighborhood, and Karen Scully's throwing it, and, you know, we had a couple, like, I think the inspector was a inspector, and then I'm trying to think who else, maybe their mortgage, the person who they used for their mortgage. And it was a great way to be out there, but yet it wasn't a listing, but yet we were still marketing ourselves.
What do you mean you had it for buyers, you were looking for sellers?
We had buyers that were coming into the neighborhood. I represented buyers in my farm. And so, you know, typically, so we're looking for listings.
Oh, okay.
So we did a
So the-
welcome to the
The
neighborhood.
people you invited didn't live in the neighborhood?
They all lived in the neighborhood.
Oh,
So it was for the entire neighborhood to celebrate the new buyers that came into the neighborhood.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It gives her a reason to go
Just
in.
have a party.
Exactly.
And talk to everybody in the neighborhood, and they're like, oh, Karen Scully, she's so sweet, look at her, she's doing this for these buyers.
Mhm.
And they're gonna always think of her when it's time for them to sell their home.
Right.
So, it just
Exactly.
gives you more opportunities to touch everybody in your farm.
Absolutely, because I don't door knock.
Yeah.
Now, what
But
I
you
do,
really
I
do.
will door knock, but it's not, it's we do 2 drives a year, so we do a, right before Thanksgiving, for Missionaries of the Poor, we do a drive, and Harris Teeter's nice enough to give us bags, 280 bags for the entire neighborhood. Put a flyer on it. I have to be very careful on our Facebook page as far as soliciting a business. You guys probably are familiar with that. So, this year we picked up like 70 bags, which is huge. So, and I'll get people that will say, I love how you do things that come from contribution. I love how you do that it's not just about buying and selling, you know, real estate. We're about to do another one, which is like a baby drive, like a, you know, so baby supplies. And then, we try and do it in times where it's off, you know, not where everybody else is doing something, like a, you know, a coat drive, or, so that's why we're doing ours in March.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so with you organizing a food drive, baby supply drive, how much money are you spending on that,
The cost of the flyer and my time.
right? Because are you providing a bag for them?
Harris Teeter provides like for free,
Yeah, so you guys,
like a paper bag.
is that not an amazing way to market yourself to a neighborhood and provide value to the whole community? Let everyone know who you are for like almost $0.
So what exactly is considered soliciting? Like, do you have to just make sure that you have something that you can give them from contribution? Cause a lot of, like, some of the subdivisions, they'll have it, like, as soon as you come in, like, no soliciting. So if you wanna go door knocking, what, you know, how thin is the line with solicitation?
I believe providing information is not solicitation.
Yep, solicitation, I say, is selling something. So because we're not selling anything, we're just providing information, maybe introducing yourself, I mean, you know.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, it's part of the reason why I don't, you know, I just don't do it in my neighborhood. It's just, I'm much better, I am better, I think, in person, I'm not a phone person either.
That's what I said.
Yeah, so I think being in person, but that's why we kind of went to more of, okay, so now we can have events, so 2 times on Labor Day weekend and on Memorial Day weekend, 2 busiest days of the pool, I have Kona Ice come. And then what I do is, so we have Kona Ice come for an hour. I've had to create restrictions with that because, you know, mom and dad are like, oh, Kona Ice is here, so let's go get 4 cones for the same kid. So it can get, but on the average, it's like $250, $300, okay, for Kona Ice. And then what we do is a $500 Visa gift card raffle. And I provide that all beforehand, and I figure, well, most people aren't even remember to bring like we have a little ticket at the bottom of the flyer that says Kona Ice is coming and we're doing a $50, $500, who doesn't want $500 money?
Yeah.
And if you think about that, if I do that twice, okay, 500 plus 300, that's $800. And then the cost of the flyers. So let's say $1,000 for each event. And if my farm is yielding, let's even say 5 homes a year, right? At 3% of, let's just say $500,000, how much money is that? If you can, this is what we see is the problem with the difference between being a real estate agent and being a business owner. $2,000 versus the return of 5 homes at $15,000 a commission. How much is that? 15 times 5?
75,000.
Okay, that's 2 teacher salaries.
I'll spend $2,000 all day, every day.
Yeah, so, you know, yeah, does it hurt when I'm like, oh, I don't wanna spend that $500, you know? But it makes a big difference because what has happened, then I get, so you ask people to, I put it on a flyer, and then at the bottom is just a little, you know, they can tear it off and they put their information. All it is email address, name, and cell phone number, okay? So the day of the event, I will be just casual, you know, I'll have a swimsuit on with a cover up on, and I'll walk around, I'll walk around the pool because it's so busy, and we'll walk around, and the good thing is that I do know a lot of people, I'll walk around, and I'll walk around with, whether it's kids or Mike, and we'll walk around and we'll say, hey, do you have your tag? Here's the, we usually do like a big pail, just put it in here, and we're gonna raffle it off at, you know, such and such time. And I am amazed 50% of people actually remember to bring it. And then we have extras, and they can just fill it out. And what an easy way to get people's information, because I had one person say they just didn't want to participate. I was like, all right, that's fine.
I've heard, and I don't know like how true it is, but I've heard that raffles for agents are actually not allowed to do.
She's not collecting money for it though.
I'm not
She's
collecting
Is that-
money.
is that what it
I'm
is?
giving it
Okay.
away.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not doing like a 50-50 or anything like that.
Okay.
All I'm
They
doing
don't have to pay
is,
$5 for the raffle.
no, it's free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing like
That's
an article
probably
that it
what-
was an issue.
Yeah, it's probably when there's money exchanged and money involved, yeah.
So your
Right.
thing isn't asking them, like, do you know anybody who wants to sell a house? It's really just collecting their information for the raffle straight off.
Yep.
And then do you throw all those sheets away that have all their information on them?
We just go ahead and put it in the database, and then, so again, the follow-up is huge, just like any other event, is just, thank you so much for being a part of, the Chimneys and Marvin, whatever day it may be, and, we kind of leave it at that. We do a separate kind of campaigning to the farm. I don't want people to think, well, God, if I give my information for that, I'm gonna be inundated by, they know who I am, because we're doing enough business in the neighborhood, that in and of itself is enough for us. And then we have separate, and this has only been in the last 2 years, that we do client appreciation events, which Jess and her team does as well, but the return is just, again, I'm looking at same kind of thing, maybe it costs us $2,000, ish, but I've made lots of mistakes with mostly bar tabs. Making alcohol available for, 75 people, and, Jennifer, Vick, and I have talked about this. And, I was so excited, our first client appreciation event, which was 2 years ago in March, okay? I was so excited, and I was excited, but I was nervous, because I was like, well, what if nobody shows up? I mean, isn't that like the biggest, and you know what my coach said to me? She said, so what, only if 10 people show up, they don't know who else was invited. So it could be just a small client appreciation event. Well, we had a ton of people RSVP and show up, and we had it right here at the Vine. You guys are familiar with that place with the private room. And we provided the food, open bar. It was supposed to only be from 6 to 8. Well, I turn around, it's like 10 o'clock, and people are ordering shots of Patron. So my budget doubled. Well, my budget didn't double, I had to pay for it. The budget was out the window. So I've learned that you've gotta, because I was so happy that people were there, and I was like, this is amazing. And it was 11 o'clock, I remember, we shut the place down, they kicked us out, and I remember turning
You
to
called me afterwards, you were like, holy.
I'm like,
Oh my
I'm at
God.
Duckworth's having my own drinks right now, and it's the only place that's open because I didn't eat for the last 5 or 6 hours.
Can I tell you what we do so we don't have that problem? I think this is what.
Did you do
Mark-
tickets?
Well, the tickets for the fun. They're actually poker chips. So each person that comes in gets 2 poker chips. You just buy the set at Party City. Everyone gets 2 poker chips. You train and tell all the bartenders and servers like work in that area. They can order whatever they want. I don't care what it is. But you get 2 drinks. So they have to turn in their token, and the servers, bartenders have like a pitcher next to their terminal where they're bringing the drinks. Put it in there, and they give them all back to us at the end of the night, and we still have poker chips. 2 drinks, whatever you want.
That's what you guys do drink tickets, don't you? Yeah, I need to just, I come from an Irish Catholic family. I mean, it is very difficult for us to just say, yeah. I mean, you go to a funeral and people are, you know. So, yeah, I need to get, like, I mean, we've already put in place what we're doing in March, this coming March, for our client appreciation event. And we make it an adult only, and then in the, we did it in the fall. We did it in the fall, and I got this idea from Jennifer, is to do a game day, so you incorporate families, a game day event, and do it preferably when the Panthers are away, so you're not competing with people who are going to the game. So we did it at Stone Mountain Grill and had the whole outside, and it was great, and everybody
So
wore
just
their
to
like
watch the
favorite
Panthers
jersey.
Just to watch the Panthers game. You weren't having.
Board
pin the tail
games,
on the
stuff,
donkey.
Football.
What?
You weren't doing pin the tail on the donkey, you were watching the Panthers. on
Well, they
TV.
were watching but what we
Right.
did was, and again, Jen really helped me with this, is that we did, started off the game with a raffle, okay? So, like, I had an inspector contribute something, I had another vendor contribute something, and so we kept it going, and then at halftime, we did a Kahoot It, which they loved that. So we incorporated, like, real estate questions, who's the best real estate agent in Charlotte, that kind of stuff. I incorporated some hockey stuff too for my son. But it was really fun. We did like 10 questions at halftime, and it kept people's interest and it kept things going. We had a face painter. I learned to hire a professional photographer, because you're gonna wanna utilize those. And again, all of this, professional photographer, like $200, face painter, same thing, $200. When you start to add it sounds like a lot, but when you look at the overall investment, and then of course you can get vendors to cover some of those costs. They're very willing to do
Our
it.
vendors cover 75%.
Yeah, I mean, ours was at least 50% the last one that we did. So they get exposure, you have a great party.
Yeah.
It's like a
It's a
win-win.
win.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
a
Helen.
question. At what point, like, how many days you have to close in order to start making such parties? Why?
That's a business decision, right? So for me, I kept my expenses very low. Like, Jess was talking about how, to do a charity drive, it doesn't really cost a whole lot of money. It doesn't cost a lot of money because we're not paying for postage when we send out our flyers. So we're saving a lot of money there. My first year in business, I didn't barely spend anything. So I made an investment in signs, because you have to for open houses. So I had like 20 signs, and they get taken over time, but they're inexpensive. I did signs and flyers. I mean, still to this day, those are, our client events are probably my biggest expense is my assistant and my coaching on a monthly basis.
Were you asking when you
Well,
should
I
have
was
a client
asking, like,
appreciation
let's say,
party?
like, I close 2 deals and make clients appreciation event of 20 deals, like.
Yeah, I would say you've gotta have some, I would get to capping status, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, if you want to right now, if you're like, wow, I do kind of want to show appreciation, then maybe, invite your, one set of clients, because if you just have two.
No, I just like exaggerating, but.
Okay, but let's say you just have two, you could say, hey, Bob and Joanna, I would love to take you guys out, for cocktails next week, or let's all meet for lunch, and you can do that with another client, until you have enough clients to have a client appreciation party. You can still show appreciation, right?
Yeah, take them to
Something-
coffee,
something
take them
little.
anywhere, there's so many things
You gotta
that
stay in
can
front
do.
of them though,
You do.
I don't care if it's a little lunch, cocktail, party down the road.
Yep.
Something along that line is maybe go ahead, because I've got core people who, they'll give me referrals, that may not be a client as of yet, but that would still be something I would invite somebody who's giving me referrals to show my appreciation.
Not everybody
So-
that we invite to our client appreciation events are our clients. There's a bunch of people who have referred business to us,
Yes.
and I know that at some point we'll help them. But, I've got somebody who's referred me 5 pieces of business, and I've never helped her husband buy or sell. So so when we put a
They're on
client
your
appreciation
list.
event together, we're inviting like our top 100. My database is not big. We have we weed it out over and over again. 600 maybe. We just work that database really, really, really hard.
At our client appreciation parties too, for people who have sent us tons of referrals, we actually have awards for them.
Yeah,
We want everyone else there to know. This
There
person
you go,
sends a
that's
lot of
good.
referrals, and that we love it. Put them on a pedestal.
People love
Make everybody else
that.
wanna step their game up.
Yeah, it's amazing that that was last year, we had a client appreciation event, and we did, again, I think we're outgrowing the vine over there for our adult thing, but somebody came up to me and he's in sales of some sort, and he said, he's like, this is amazing, and he's like, and I love how, what we did was we introduced everybody that's like a core part of it, so that people, you know, a lot of our clients, it's not just me, it's not just about my transaction coordinator, it's not just about my assistant, it's also our inspector, it's our stager, it's, you know, it's maybe our lenders. So we kind of invited them all up and said, you know, this is truly who our team is. So as an individual agent, because that's what this is really about, is like building your business as an individual agent, you do have a team. It just looks a little different than like Jess Peg's team.
Yeah. You got a question?
Yeah, so, you were talking about the, appreciation, right? So at what point do you come in, after closing, or when do you, do that?
As far as,
Like, when you close, for example, a client today, so you do the appreciation, say, a month after,
so this is a semi-annual thing that we do for all of our clients. So it's not based on a single,
individual?
yeah.
Do you invite, so if you have a client appreciation in June, do you invite the clients that you help for the first 6 months, or do you invite all?
We pretty much invite anybody that we're either under contract with, so like, we have an event in March. Anybody that I'm working with right now, we invite, and then we of course have our core people. There's people that I don't invite.
Because you're like, I don't ever
I
wanna
don't
see you
really
again.
ever wanna see you again.
I definitely don't wanna have a cocktail with you either.
Yeah, but you would be amazed, so I've had two instances over the years, one of which I actually had to fire, which Jess knows about, mid-transaction. Had to, buy and sell, $500,000-$600,000 houses, right? He was just an awful person. And then I had another one that was new construction, and thank God it was new construction, because he drove the on-site agent bananas. And I was like, he's never going to, so when we closed on his house a couple of years ago, they bought this $600,000 house. It was like 10,000 square feet in Indian land with a basement, and there was only 2 of them. And I was in Nordstrom one day, and I saw him and his wife, and they just had a newborn, and I was like, he's getting his right now. He acted like, because the baby was screaming, and his wife was trying to like pick out a really like cool handbag, and I was like, oh my God. You know, I didn't even go over there and say, because he was such a nightmare. He told me that I wasn't allowed to we put something on Facebook, like a picture of him and his wife when they close. He's like, I need you to take that down. So I was like, I'm never gonna hear from this guy ever again, and I'm okay with it. Last week he reaches out to me. He's like, I'm thinking we're just probably gonna have to sell this house because they're doing something around here. I don't want, so this is like, okay, I have to make a business decision here. Do I want to deal with him? I had to deal with him on the buy side, but listing his house, he's got this big dog that like sheds, and I can only imagine like the hair and the scratches all over asking him to do something is going to be, I mean, he screamed at just about every person that was involved in the transaction. So, but I thought he would never ever, I never thought I'd hear from him again. But you know why? Because probably nobody else will deal with him. That's probably why he's like reaching out to me. He's like, well, you know.
Let's try here.
Yeah, let's try her again.
Or she put up with my crap, maybe she wants to do it again.
Yeah, you'd be amazed.
Did you take it? So did you?
Well, I'm trying to help him work through a couple of things, and we'll just see what.
Maybe you could refer him. Maybe you could refer him.
I don't know that I would do that to anybody. Yeah, I mean, really, it's just a difficult, and you know what's interesting, this is what's interesting, I'll never forget the first day that, that I had taken him and his wife out. We were looking at property in South Charlotte, and I got a phone call from Mike, and he's like, Shelly, he's like, she's gone, it's my dog. And it was, I'll never forget, it was July 3rd, a couple of years ago, and I was like, what do you mean the dog's gone? Go look for her. He's like, no, she's gone. And I was in the car with them, and they're dog lovers, and they were so sweet. And they were like, you need to stop what you're doing right now. Because he's telling me, he's like, the kids don't know, she's up on the 3rd floor. And they're like, oh my God, they're like, they sent me a beautiful card, like after they got back they were from DC. And so like, there's good there, you know, there's good there. But it's, you know, you'd be amazed at people who do come back. You may think that you have a horrible transaction, and then they do circle back to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you guys more questions for her about lead gen ideas or how she built her
Question
business?
about farming.
Okay, and then we're gonna move on to different subjects.
How do you know, if you decide to farm a neighborhood, like say there's already 2 agents working in your neighborhood, hypothetically, but there's another neighborhood that doesn't seem to have a market share, how do you know that you're not stepping on somebody else's toes that is already trying to farm that same neighborhood?
Well, I think the numbers speak for themselves, okay? So if you're looking at farming, go back at least 2 years, find out how much, if somebody's got 20% market share, they're working that neighborhood probably pretty hard. So, and then look at turnover, because people will come to me and they'll say, we'll talk about farming and say, hey, I'll be like, well, how many homes are in that neighborhood? 25. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taught through maps, a great farming neighborhood is 200 to 300, or if you've got a big neighborhood, let's just say like,
Stone Creek Ranch.
Stone Creek Ranch, maybe you only do a portion of it. It becomes cost prohibitive, and I wouldn't worry about stepping on anybody's toes other than maybe a fellow KW agent. I would be respectful, right,
Yeah.
of that. Like, I would never go into Jess's neighborhood.
Which is Stone Creek Ranch, so don't.
Yes.
Don't go right now, go right now. Stone Creek Ranch.
How do you find out?
Well,
20%?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's got a decent, you're gonna look at those numbers and be like,
You're gonna see it.
you're gonna see that someone is continuously taking market share.
Yeah.
Then you have to make that decision, all right, do I wanna combat that, or do I wanna go into a neighborhood where there virtually is no market share by a particular
How do
agent?
you find that out?
MLS.
So look up
So go to that class tomorrow. Yeah,
Yeah.
MLS is your best friend when it comes to just about anything. But yeah, you just go ahead and just look at all the solds. That's what I did in my own neighborhood for the last 2 years, and then, you may have to just kind of, and the other thing that I do too is, all right, what's their list to sold ratio too? How many days on market? Are they good at what they do, or is it just because people think, oh, I need to go with this person? Can you make a difference in the neighborhood?
Also, do you have like would you suggest some price range, like, if you already put so much effort, it should be like 3.5.
Well, really with farming, if you do it at a high level, you can have 2 neighborhoods, like a startup neighborhood and then a move over neighborhood, right? Level 1, level 2, so maybe it's, again, and you're gonna see probably a higher turnover in a 200 to 350 neighborhood, right? Than you would in maybe like a neighborhood that I'm in. We're just not seeing the turnover, and a lot of that has to do with where I'm located and, it's, and the schools, keep them there.
They're there to raise families.
They are, yeah. So farming is consistency, and that's all it is. And we fail with that too, is, all of a sudden we're like, whoa, wait, the month went by, we only had, 3 touches. Usually 2 of them are electronically, and only 1, like a call to action, a piece that went out to them. We really need to have 2. So it's just consistency. You can't consider yourself farming a neighborhood if you're not doing it on a regular, every single month. I do, but and that is all real estate related. I never throw a recipe or anything like that. Anything that I do in my farming neighborhood, unless it's a drive that we're doing, is all related to real estate.
So what you say like every month, what do you do every month?
Well, the idea is to get market share. Once you get market share, that's easy. It takes care of itself, right? You get a new listing, you're throwing it out there. You get a listing under contract, you're throwing it out there. You do, you get it sold, you're throwing it out there. And then what you do is you have accumulation of, maybe 3 or 4 houses that you've sold. Call yourself number 1. There's nothing wrong with it, because you probably are, right? Yeah.
So those are just, you're making like one page, like printouts, like copied flyers versus making some other more formal glossy thing up? Are they
I
regular
don't do
flyers?
anything, I don't do any, like, I know competitors, I'll get like a massive, you live in Waxhaw, you see them. Yeah, I mean, I'll get a massive, and they're more expensive.
Oh, yeah, no, so you
But
do
the
regular
reality is the
flyers,
content.
and do you put them out yourself?
It depends, because if I feel like I need to,
Yeah,
because
right.
people have stopped me, they're like, why are you putting flyers out? I was like, because I wanna walk the neighborhood or drive the neighborhood, I just wanna see who's out and doing
Yeah.
things, because I know a lot of people. Or, my son, although I have to tell you, speaking of him being such
He
a
needs
good
to
kid.
finally get his license.
Yeah, he needs to get his permit. on it first. I gave him like a little crossover. Emma, I had a buyer's agent at one point. We would hire her son to do it. The thing is though, I have people in the neighborhood that I don't put flyers in, and some of them are agents in this office.
Yeah.
They're gonna probably find out about it, but there's a couple of homes
which
that I
house
just
is
don't
that?
put stuff in. But I was cleaning out his closet because I couldn't stand it. And I found like his little cross bag, and there were like 10 flyers in there. I was like, oh, what cul-de-sac did he skip? I went back to we probably just printed too many.
Dog is pay.
Yeah, dog is pay.
I wanna hear more about just juggling all of it by yourself. Who else is on your team?
That's what we're getting into.
Yeah, good,
Thank
okay.
you for the,
Segue.
So,
talking about leverage.
yeah, that's, I feel like, again, I think I'll always struggle somewhat with it, but I'm in a better place now than I ever have been. So started with a closing coordinator, I've always had one, okay, since transaction number 2. Had an assistant 2.5 years into the business. I should have done that a lot sooner, part-time. And my assistant now is still part-time. So she was with me for a good 3 years. She lived in my neighborhood, which was great. It was really convenient for us, but she was a very low-key personality in the neighborhood, so I didn't have to worry about her, because we do a lot of business with people in the neighborhood. She left to go back to like a full-time job, and I wound up hiring someone internally here who did not want to sell. She just wanted to be in a support role. So the beauty of that is that she is licensed, and that has changed things dramatically, because when I didn't have and I was always of the mindset, well, why would I hire a licensed agent, because she's just gonna wanna like get my secrets and then go and make her own, do her own thing or his thing. And so it's great, when my buyers, particularly buyers, call and say, hey, can we go back to the house, go to measure, want to pick out paint colors, which I hate doing. I don't even know still how I work with buyers. We'll go back to that one day. I really don't. So I'm more of like, I like to roll in, when we're ready to write the contract, sure. But we just did this with a client. They don't care. They just want to get into, and it took me years to figure that out. Your buyers just want someone to open up the door. And then when they're ready with the questions and they're ready to pull the trigger and write a contract, well, that's where you step in. But the fact that Leslie, my assistant, is licensed, she can do a lot of that stuff for me. With Jail, remember I told you about Jail? Jail, being a first-time home buyer, they didn't know where they wanted to be. And Leslie was awesome. She just took them all over creation. Gastonia, they were on like this side of the city, that side of the city. I mean, I would have been like, because I'm thinking I need to be developing the business and getting more business, opposed to spending, we spent countless hours. But I'm so happy that we did find them, and we found them something right here, like literally 2 miles away. I know, oh my God, they're the best couple ever. So, it's made my life so much easier. I did have a buyer's agent. So I had my assistant, who was not licensed, hired a buyer's agent. I was kind of, listening to everybody else and listening to my coach and everybody around me. They're like, just hire a buyer's agent. That's the next natural thing to do in your business. And I did. I had her for 2 years, and I became like complacent. I was just kind of like, well, she's doing all the buyers. I could do my normal listings. The reality is that I really needed to double my listings, and I didn't. And she was great. She really was. But again, for me, it was, I didn't hire someone to feed leads to. And that's the difficult thing when you hire, this, is that that individual needs to go out and lead generate for at least 50% of their business. That's the model, right? That is our KW model when you hire someone, and that wasn't happening. So the market was starting to shift a little, and this is like last year, and I'm like, and she recognized it too, and she's like, and she had a baby, and so the whole dynamic of everything sort of changed, but I probably should have cut the cord long before that, and I didn't, because it was, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
But the reality is that I had to think about, I started to need to be selfish, and I have to look at it from, hey, I am running a business here. So the best thing that happened was that she had left, and then Leslie kind of moved into her position, and so I know what I can do. You know, the reality is that we could probably do 75 transactions a year with just what we have in place. Do I wanna do that? No. Probably not, no, but even 50 transactions, but for me though, I went back and looked at the profitability. I was much more profitable when I was just me
Yep.
and my assistant. Because guess what? I would put all the onus on me, but I know how to navigate it much better now than I did a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So I love our model, and I know that, you know, we'd have to be doing over 100, we did the math on this with my coach, 120 transactions to have even like somebody on staff doing full transaction coordination, which that's not a goal of mine. So I've had to really take a step back. Last year I took a big step back just to look at, okay, what do I need to make? What do I want this business to look like? And when we decide to ramp up next year, am I still gonna be able to do that but still enjoy my life? You know?
If it's not fun anymore, it's just not worth it.
It's not, and you know what, I got really caught up, like, what was it, I think it was like 2 years in a row, I was the #1 individual agent in this office, and I was like, I don't need to be #1, I need to be #1 with my family.
Yes.
So that I can do all the things that, you know, I can go and buy a house down in Charleston, I can go and vacation, because we love to vacation, I can do all those things and still have the flexibility, and yet still enjoy and still put money away.
And you've also decided that you are not trying to be not just a single mega agent, you're not interested in becoming a mega agent team.
No, I
So
made
you
that
know
decision.
what it is, you
Yeah.
know where you wanna stop.
Yeah.
And
I don't
that
wanna manage
sometimes-
people.
Right, and so
They're
maybe
paying.
sometimes that causes you to.
I don't want to be there, I was kind of
I
forced
can't even
into
manage
it.
my own kids, how am I supposed to manage people?
Sometimes we can't manage ourselves.
We can't manage ourselves, I need somebody to manage me.
And
Yeah.
have you found a coach that's on board with that, and they're not just trying to cram down this?
That's a great question. I unfortunately, in the last month, have had 3 coaches, and it's not because of me, it's because of circumstances with my coaches. So I had someone for 2 years, and what was starting to happen was we were becoming like buddies and friends, and I can't wait to see her and family reunion, and we're like, we have the best relationship. And so she moved out for health reasons out of MAPS, and then they gave me somebody else who took a TL role. And so now my coach was only an individual agent and did it at a very, very high level. So we are like a really good match. Yeah, and she knows, I said, if you feel like I need to leverage, and what does that look like, you've gotta tell me. Because if I come to you and I'm like, I'm dying here, then it means maybe I can't take on as much. You know, the hardest thing to say no to is business.
So what else, you delegate obviously the inspector, the stager, the photographer, and then what are other chunks of things that you delegate to other people, or?
Well, to my assistant, she does all the pre-listing, the input, I had to do that the other day, and I will be honest, I was just.
That's right, when your photos came in after like 6 o'clock or whatever. You're
We
like, I
were
didn't
talking
listen.
about that, we had a conversation.
I
about
didn't
that.
figure out until like 3 or 4 months ago how to put in the on the map to
Tour factory?
Oh,
the
no, the location.
Yeah, I'm like,
Otherwise it's gonna show up in my
latitude and
gas stove.
longitude, I was like,
It's gonna
every
show
day,
up.
he's like, oh my god.
What's the
But you know what?
make a link?
Hey, you know what, mister? It's because I've always leveraged it out. Just like I've never filled out a green sheet, I've never hit submit for review, I don't even know what that button does, so.
Right.
Leverage,
Well,
leverage,
and
leverage.
how many darn times I'm all excited, it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm hitting the submit, and it's like
Error,
five red
red.
errors. I was like, are you kidding me? This is exactly why I have an assistant. And we were talking about this, I was like, I shouldn't be doing this at 11 o'clock at night. I should either be in bed or in bed. I mean, that's just it, right? I mean, that's the only thing that I should be doing, but I heard this conversation,
You should be in
yes,
bed.
I should be in bed. 9 o'clock now, I mean, unless I'm out with her. Or
I thought that's what you
yes,
were gonna say, you're better.
with Jess.
Oh, yes. One cocktail turned
But
into
I
10,
said,
you know.
I said that that to her. I said, this is ridiculous. This is not setting expectations with the team and my seller. And so now we're like, because photography comes in, we have photography done, we're not gonna promise, this is what we were talking about. Photography's done, let's just say on a Monday, we're not gonna promise them that we're getting them on the market Monday night. We're putting 48 hours in place so that we're not scrambling, because it's not fair to anybody, and then there's mistakes. So as far as what is, she does pretty much, pretty much everything. She does my books. But have you guys ever heard Diana talk about how she lost everything? So I'm really kind of careful about that. She does all my expense input and my income input. There's no balance sheet where she's managing the money.
Who does that? You do
I
that.
do that.
Oh, you've got finance background, that's right, okay.
I do, but it's not that hard because we're talking about just me.
Do you use QuickBooks? What do you, yeah.
Yep, we use QuickBooks, and I remember a couple of years ago being in the business, 2 years, and I had all these receipts, and it was like, it was January, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to input all this. So I just get stuff and it just goes to her and she inputs it. Marketing, Facebook posts, that kind of stuff, all that pre-listing, all of our packets, our buyer, updating all of that information. We're not big, and our businesses, we talked a lot about just social media, it's just not I'll put stuff out on social media. And really a little bit more for personal reasons, and I got that from Tony Giordano, who was here last year, who said, unless you're going to pay for it, focus on your personal side. Who are you as a person? People want to know that you're real. So I put stuff out there about my crazy dogs, my kids, crazy stuff that happens, my dogs get into a lunchbox and chew apart and then they both act like they didn't do it. I get them on video. It's real, it's being a real person, and people don't, the worst thing that has happened to me in this business is someone has said to me, I didn't refer you business because I know how busy you are. I had somebody today call me, one great past client, and he says, all right, I know how, you were just so busy, you work so hard, and I'm thinking, this is what I do. My job is to talk to people, and I'm never too busy to talk to anybody, right? But when people think that, so they see all this business stuff out there, and then they're like, well, they've got all that they need. You don't want them to think that. And that's a fine line, I think.
Or they might see your price point and be like, well, I wanna buy a $250,000 house.
And I've had that too. Yeah.
I got a question on lead follow-up. This is something my business said, I only struggle with. I time block 2 to 3 hours a day, but my coach told me that's way too much time. It should be
For
an
lead
hour.
follow-up, an hour.
An hour. And just looking for any strategies, techniques, or tips you have for minimizing that time.
Why don't you just put a timer on your phone and just say, all right, so I'm doing an hour. So the good thing about Leslie, what she did for me that I've never done before, is that she books me a conference room every single morning for me to, on the days that I know that she's gonna be here, to go in there and make the phone calls. I automatically, what do I wanna do? I wanna do lead follow-up. I don't wanna do lead gen, right? Two different things. You guys get the difference, right? Lead follow-up is, you already maybe made the connection with somebody. Maybe it was at an open house, or it was a friend referred them to you, and it's time for you to kind of follow up with them. That's a much more fun thing to do.
Leslie's your assistant?
Yes.
Yes.
So I do an hour, really it's probably more like an hour and a half, and then a half hour of lead follow-up.
Andrew, are you using the pipeline tool? Okay, for me, my follow-up, I just go through all of that. Are you just saying it's taking longer than?
Yeah, or just, people ask me really good questions, and it'll take me hours to get the exact wording and data to them sometimes.
So
It
can
just
you
depends on-
utilize your assistant to gather some of that data? Like, for example, my crazy that I was talking to you about, that kid followed back up with me, he's got some interesting things that he needs to know about Lancaster County, and that's something very easy that she can do. So try and leverage some of that out. And I know that you wanna come across and you wanna be like the expert, but some of that stuff you can easily give to her.
Yeah,
Right.
research stuff?
And she could be doing that while you are doing your lead gen. So that's something that we found too, that's the way this should really work, is that in the mornings, she should be doing the handwritten notes. Your handwritten notes don't have to come from you, by the way. It's, right? I mean, they don't need to be your, I know. No, but I'm saying, when you get to a certain point, you may say, you know what, because it's time consuming to do a handwritten note. So what she'll do is that people that I contacted the day before, I can give her the list, and then she can just do handwritten notes while I'm doing my lead gen. So we're really doing lead gen at the same time. Is that helpful?
It is.
Okay, the last question, then we're gonna move on to the rest of this, cause we
Yeah,
went.
we
I
have
was
20
curious,
minutes.
how did you find Leslie? How did that connection happen?
Leslie was actually, I was a productivity coach here, and she was in our group, right? And, I can't exactly remember how it happened. I mean, the best thing that you can do is let people know, the people that you trust, let them know that, yeah, I'm in the market for an assistant, or whatever the case is, because if people don't know, they can't, it's no different than, I was having this conversation with Mike the other day. He's like, man, I can't get over in the lane, we're on like Route 26 in outside Charleston. I said, well, if you put your blinker on, people would know that's what you wanna do, right? That's why we have blinkers. No, that's what we want. But it's the same thing, like if you give people the heads up, then, you know, and that's, I think, what I did. And then somebody came to me and said, hey, I think she's, you know, just kind of put us together.
And if you go to career visioning too, they teach you tons of stuff about that. I learned at career visioning, you've taken career visioning, that true talent is not looking for a job right now.
Right.
Yeah.
They're already in a job. So the kind of person that you know you need as an admin, find those people already in their job
And it took us a
offer them a
while.
better job.
If you do the career visioning
No
the way it
joke.
should be done,
It's all
it
got
will
money.
take you a long time.
That's how I got money.
Yeah, it took me us a month and a half to get through the process.
All right, let's talk about ALC, because you've been on ALC for many, many years. So how many years have you been on ALC and ran a committee, and what has being on ALC done for you and your business and your life?
I wanna say, okay, wasn't my first year. I think it was going into my second year. I was off for half of the year because I was a productivity coach, I wasn't allowed to. So I wanna say this
This
is
is
my
fourth year?
fifth year, maybe?
You were on JR Leggy and Thomas that year, and the very next year I was on ALC with you guys.
And then we
Maybe
had
you're still on
another
ALC,
year,
then you skipped a year, and then
last year, and then this year. Yeah.
What has that done for you? Because you keep doing it, so.
I do, I know. I remember seeing that with people, I'm like, why do I keep doing that? It's weird. A number of reasons. I think number one, you and I have talked about this, it does keep me, I feel very connected to the Working Center. So I love having my own business, but I'm also very much a brick and mortar person. I'm here for the most part, every single day. And I like being part of that. It's really helped me develop my leadership skills. It's helped me be a better agent. Being around people who are in the top 20%, they all have a tendency to think alike. They're high-level thinkers. And the first year, I wasn't on ALC, but Jay White asked me to be on his committee. And I was like so scared. He wanted me to be on growth with him. And he said, no, this is a great opportunity for you to kind of get into leadership. And so I did it, and I think I ran growth the following year. And it has really developed me personally and as an individual to be a leader. I don't consider myself a leader. I think it's helped me, no, I really don't. I never have. I don't know, because I'm not that, like, I'll be honest with you, like my first year in the business, I used to like go home and be like, I'm so tired of people running around, they're like, I got this in your contract. I mean, you guys know it, you hear it. Oh my God, I did 3 this week. And I'm like, I'm not doing any business, what am I doing? Like, I would get so intimidated. I think being on ALC helped me get past that, because I am an individual agent, but yet I'm on ALC with people who have big teams, who maybe they're a husband and wife team. We learn so much from each other. The sharing element is huge. And then, of course, being on ALC gives you, the perk of going to lots of regional events where you meet agents within the region, you meet agents, all over the country. So there's something, not to mention the fact that it's not unlikely that somebody could call into the office and be like, hey, I have a referral, but I only want to refer it to an ALC member because I'm an ALC member. So membership does kind of have its
Especially because all the
privileges.
work that we do on ALC, you don't get paid for
we don't get paid for it, and you'd be, I mean, I can't believe that there's 3 of us on this career development, and there's still so much that
To
we
be
still have
done.
to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you started off on a committee,
Mhm.
then you were on ALC.
Yep.
I started off on a committee, then I was on ALC. Jennifer, did you start off just on a committee and then you were ALC? Any other ALC members in here? No? So, the point is, join a committee. We talk about that all the time. Join a committee, seriously. Get involved. And that was one thing you and
And
I
it's good with
discussed.
time management too, you know, I'm better when I'm busy.
Yeah.
Makes me manage my time much better.
And you and I both were like, oh my gosh, we have to somehow, you're like, I think I'm gonna do ALC again, 2019. Because you and I, we're so involved, we love the Market Center so much, so much, that we can't stand to not know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't.
That's also a part of it. It's like,
yeah,
you
I don't
gotta
like
be
being,
in the
I
know.
don't like being out of the loop,
Yeah.
and I think that's also something that's happened over, just happened over time.
Mhm.
I love going to family reunion, which is a requirement of being on ALC. I love going to, I love seeing Gary Keller in person. Now, granted, you don't have to be on ALC to do it, but there are definitely privileges to, and benefits of being on the ALC.
How did you come up with your branding? You know, you've got a Clover and it's Carrie and Scully Homes. How did you come up with that?
I think I was initially attempted to be like Agent Scully. I mean, Chip calls me that all the time. All the time.
Agent
It's got Agent Scully, Agent Scully, Agent Scully. Scully's a married name, thank God, because my maiden name is Caspito, which is very Italian and would not work. Like, could you imagine people like, the Cuspe Esposito, what? So, because it's Irish, I think that's part of it, and the luck factor that comes along with your, 4-leaf clover, because PJ's a 3, he's a shamrock, I think. I'm the 4-leaf. So that was kind of it. And I wanted it simple, black, white, with a little bit of color.
What do you hope that people think of when they think of Carrie and Scully Homes? As far as your reputation?
Reputation, which, by the way, that's pretty much all we have in this business. Just, standout agent, standout person, incredible team, great level of service. And I hope they think of us as, what's not the norm. That's kind of how I and why I got into the business, because all my personal transactions were pretty awful with agents. So I wanted to kind of buck the system and be what, not be the number 9 of the 10 professionals that are out there that be on the bottom. I want to be on top with the, pharmacists and teachers that get a lot of respect that are out there, because let's face it, we don't get it.
Yeah, I would say, just based on knowing you and what the public probably thinks, is that you do everything to the 9, top notch, you never cut corners, and that you will fight for to the death for your clients. Seriously, that's what I take from what I know about you.
To a detriment at times.
Sometimes.
Yeah, because perfection, or perfectionist it's a curse and a blessing to be a perfectionist. And so I've you kind of have to step back. Having kids has taught me that the house doesn't have to be perfect when I walk in the evening.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're back being an individual agent, you've got Leslie who is licensed, Evan's in hockey all the time, Kenna's doing volleyball all the time, Mike travels all the time. So right now, especially with you hoping that 2019 is a busier year than 2018, what is the work-life balance and the kids and the juggling and coming in here and ALC? How do you make sure
it's
you
hard.
still have a life?
Every day it's a challenge, but what I will tell you is we talked about this last year. There was right before family reunion, I went to a panel in Huntington Beach, and they went down the panel. Jenny Wallach was on the panel. David Hoffman was on the panel, and talked about what time do you get up, high-level producers. And that is something I've changed in probably the last 9 months or so, is that I was getting up as early as 6 sounds, but I'm up at about 4:30 every day. So 2 extra hours is equivalent to, I think, 30 days a year.
Kevin Cohn just posted that.
Did he
A
really?
while ago, yeah, about
Today?
getting up earlier.
What time do you go to bed? Or go to bed.
If, I was gonna say. Well, it will be challenging when we go to New Orleans, because it's all day, and then of course we have events in the
But
evening,
no, it's
so
in
in
general,
general. So I've been
I
trying
mean,
to
did you,
be
I don't
like
know,
in
did
bed.
you have to change that a lot? Is
I
that
was
not
going to
right?
bed at like 11, and it's too late.
Yeah.
Because I wanna be asleep by 11, so I'm in bed by like
Finish.
9,
Yeah.
10 on a
You did have
given.
to shift that to.
But like,
accommodate
for
that.
example, tomorrow, Evan's got hockey until 10, I'll get home at 11. I mean, it really stinks for all of us. So it's hard, the work-life balance never, it's a constant, you know, it's constantly working on it. But I will say the getting up and go at 4:30, I can go to the gym, that's the other thing, that is a non-negotiable in my life. I have to go to the gym. If I don't go to the gym, I am miserable. I'm just not, so I've really tried to just get that out of the way and then, you know, start the day and turn off. So, for example, today, so I at 2:30 am going to, I have to head and get my son, who goes to private school, and that was a new thing for us this year. He has dyslexia, and the public school setting was just not working for him at all. And unfortunately, it took us this long to kind of figure it out and take action. And his school costs us $25,000 a year. So that's my cap, and that's the way I have to look at it, you know, is that, you know, get rid of that, and it's a sacrifice, and I'm not picking him up and driving him every day because we're in a carpool, but that's part of like, all right, so I'm bringing him back home, we don't get home till 4, I'm gonna do like, you know, maybe an hour of work, McKenna's gotta go to volleyball, I'm gonna go run over to DB's, and then I'm gonna run back to volleyball. So really, my work is over unless I'm fielding phone calls, and I can do it from the car.
And the
At
carpool
about-
too with like Evan's school, I mean, she's got a group where it's like, you know, it's her week for picking up in the afternoons, or her week for, you know, dropping off in the mornings and whatever, I mean, you guys.
Yeah, I have
plan
about
that.
once a month that I drive for
Once a
the
month,
week,
yeah.
but, you know, it's never, it doesn't get easier. It will get easier, I think, when the kids get their licenses, but then your worries are bigger.
I was gonna say, just.
Yeah.
So Karen and I wrote these questions together, and number 11 says, she wrote, talk about how much you love Jess Peck. You sent me these last night, I was like, oh,
I did that on
love her,
purpose, I did that to
love
see
her.
if she was paying attention. Yeah, but I do love Jess. And I love the fact that, over the years, like what she says is, it's so true, you know, Gary Keller says, you surround yourself with the 5 people that you wanna be like, that make you a better person, that, you know, bring out the best in you and not the worst in you, right? So do you guys have questions?
I have a couple more.
Oh, you do? Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
I've got 3 actually, they're really good.
Okay.
What's the one thing you hope everyone gets from this class today?
Question.
This means you didn't read the questions when I said thank you.
Oh, I didn't. I did not at all. I didn't read them because I just figured, no, because I was like, I don't need to prepare. I'm okay with tough questions. I hope that people realize that you can have a really big business by being an individual agent. And I know we talk a lot about teams here in this office, and I know that I felt that way too. That it was just about the team. Well, guess what? You can have your own team and still be an individual agent. For me, it's just I didn't want to manage. I realized, and I probably realized it sooner rather than later, and didn't take action to get myself back into that individual agent status. But just that you can have a big business and don't be intimidated by what you hear about what people are doing, because the reality is that the numbers say everything. Okay? And that, you know, and if you need help, just ask for it. That's what, that is the one thing that I did, I think that I was good at my first year or so, is
You
that I was
still
never
are.
afraid to ask for help.
And you'll ask multiple people before you feel like you've got like the right
Yeah.
answer. What's your favorite quote and why?
I have a favorite quote, and I said part of it, and I don't know where it came from, but it's because my personal and family life is so important to me, is President I was first in the business, it said, at the end of the day, bring home what is best of you and not what is left of you. And there were many, many, many days where I brought home what was
Left.
the little pieces of me that were left because I let everything, I got so attached to the outcome that there was nothing left of me. And then therefore my family, they were like, Mom's tired again, or Mom's too busy, or, you know, and that's a horrible thing. I'd rather have really negative criticism from my clients than my family,
Yeah.
right?
Who has been the most influential person in your business?
Oh God, that's a hard question.
Wrong answer, you're supposed to say Jessica Page.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm definitely not.
That's a really, really difficult question. There's a couple of people, Chip being one of them. You know, I'll never forget walking in with him being my first coach, and just, you know, you guys know Chip's very pragmatic. There's no gray area, and there's no, I'm gonna, you know, give you hugs and make you feel better. And I love that about Chip, and that doesn't work for everybody, but he's just a source of almost quiet inspiration, and I can go to him with just about anything. I would say just being surrounded also by the ALC over the years. I think about some of the people that have really helped me, like Jay
Leslie.
White and Leslie Williams. In fact, I talked to Leslie over the weekend. You know, any of our team leaders, and they all, you know, offer something different. So there's not one person. And then, you know, really my family who have supported me and said and allowed me to do this, and they still love me today. And that's quite. I think that's quite a task, given the fact that I felt like for 2 years they didn't really see me. So, you know, I mean, people that I could never even get my hands on, like a Diana or a Mo, you know, or Gary. If you haven't seen Gary speak, you gotta do it. So there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Jessica Peg.
Yeah.
You are one of them, for sure. Yeah. In the beginning too, even like Cynthia, when Cynthia was here, you know, she was so good about like, she'd be like, hey, do you wanna go on I've got buyers, why don't you come out with me? Went out with her for the day, and she just, I got to see how she interacted with her buyers, you know, taking them and showing them
And you know what,
property.
sometimes it's just, who is the person that talked you off a ledge? You know.
I'd
You
say
feel this
Jay
person,
White,
you're
I
like
call
so
Jay White
mad
quite
that you're
a bit.
gonna say the wrong thing, or you're so emotional about something, and then, you know, you just call one person, and they're, calm down. Here's the situation,
Mhm.
isn't it just like this? Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, and I'm Italian, so I do get a little excited at times,
Hmm.
so, I mean,
So-
and I'm Irish too, so.
Last question that I
Yes.
have. I know that you being here and being successful, ALC, all that led to you being asked to be a productivity coach.
Mhm.
Are you ever gonna become a MAPS coach? Is that on your radar in the future?
It was, yes, it was a goal for me a couple of years ago, and I think it is something not in the near future, but more of like the distant future. I love the idea of eventually just, you know, not being in production anymore, but yet still being in real estate, and taking the knowledge that I've, you know, gained over the years, cause I'm at 7 or 8 years now, and being able to give back to, you know, to agents. And it doesn't, you know, what's interesting is that my coaches, this is my first coach that I have that lives on the East Coast, which I love, because we don't have that time difference, but I will tell you, every single one of my coaches, I got something different from, and they were all amazing. I believe in coaching 100%. And, you know, I think about my coach that lived in Oregon. She would do things for me, which she's not supposed to, but she would do it for me. She'd be like, you know, we just haven't talked enough. Let's set up some time over the weekend. She's like, can you do that? I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the fact that she, you know, these coaches are not just out there to do a job. I mean, they're really out there to help us be
Yeah,
successful.
they care.
Oh, absolutely. So I think in the long term, it would be a great thing to do. You can do it from anywhere, right? And it gives you the opportunity to give back to agents, and that's something that I think when I'm ready to say goodbye to buying and selling, it's a great option. That's what I love about Keller Williams. And I don't know, did I tell you this? No, you knew that we invested in the Market Center. Yeah, so another opportunity that like KW has provided for me was a couple of years ago, a couple of us in the Market Center here invested in an overseas Market Center. So you don't get those opportunities with, you know, with your typical local real estate company. Even in like, I don't know, like Remax, I'm sure you don't have half the opportunities that you do within KW.
Really quick, rapid fire, I want at least 5 ahas or ideas that you're gonna implement in your business.
Follow-up. The follow-up.
What?
Which part about the follow-up?
That you have in place, everything and have time block for doing that. So that's just a big aha.
So you're gonna start time blocking for follow-up?
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice.
Neighborhood welcome party, I like that.
Well, yeah, I wrote that down too.
I need help.
That you need help, or you mean just to ask for help? You mean leverage?
Leverage, yes.
Talk to Dave.
The food drive.
Dave's here.
That's leverage step number 1. It takes hours and hours and hours off of your plate. Janice?
The neighborhood welcome card, I really like that, but I got confused, so I do wanna ask you a question. If you're not door knocking, how are you getting these people to sign the card?
Well, I have to do
She
that,
is.
but
Okay,
I'm not
okay.
going to the entire neighborhood. I'm probably, you know, if they're in
Just right around the
cul-de-sac, I'll
house.
probably do like 5 houses around them.
And our team does it now too, and so, yeah, we just want, because we don't want to say, yeah, you got a new neighbor that's, 3 streets over, so,
Right.
you sign this card? No, you wanna say,
In the vicinity.
hey, right over there, like diagonally across the street from you, there's this, you know,
Yeah.
beautiful couple moving in, whatever. Look, you know, they're so sweet, I've met them a couple times, that's the listing, whatever. What else? Jennifer, you wrote down a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, two big things were definitely the whole first thing that was like a life balance it with me is a lot, because I feel like I don't know how to stop working. So like I do cut a little bit of time during my day, like I'll go home and I'll get my daughter up the bus and I'll make dinner, but then it's like, okay, I gotta go do something else, like it gets cut real short, and then I do open houses on the weekend, so my weekends get taken up too, so it's like I have to definitely balance spending more time with my kids, and I do explain to them like, this is for the next couple of weeks or something, I'm going to be really busy, but I definitely have to like make more time for like just little things. And also with like finding the market share, that was good for me, like I didn't know, I know there's so much stuff that you can do in MLS, but if you're not always using it, you don't know, what to look for to find information.
Yeah.
And I did door knocking this weekend, and I wanna do some more, but more closer to my neighborhood, so I'm gonna look that up to find out, if it's a concentrated area, if somebody hasn't already worked in it or.
Key and Helene?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm only considering this, but the difference between a transaction coordinator for both listing and buyer side and an actual assistant. So the in-office assistant versus the parceling over to somebody.
Yeah, so
that
she
does the
does
same thing everywhere.
everything just on a transaction basis. And we've talked about this, I know, in the Market Center within other, within some classes I've taught, that if you look at again, break it down, be a business person, so if it's costing you $300 to, have a transaction coordinator per transaction, and your average commission is $7,500, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
right?
But
Hello, people,
that can be a
do the
different
math.
person. Then you
So-
also have an assistant to do things like your bookkeeping and the things that
And
might be
marketing
the same
and-
task but are more fluid.
It's different, and I also realize, for me, that's not one and the same person as far as
Right.
what I'm looking for in those people.
Right.
You know, I mean, Dave
I
is a
had
high
separated.
C.
Yeah.
Like detail, right?
Right,
My assistant, I want to be a little more creative.
yeah. And that's
Detailed as well, but a little
And the
more.
transaction coordinator is, transaction is the key word, it's a package deal. And then your assistant is somebody that's with you and goes through all the market changes.
I mean, you could
Yeah.
hire someone to do both of those things for you, maybe as a full-time person. I just chose not to. It doesn't,
Right.
for me, it doesn't work.
Right, I've never thought about those people.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always thought Dave, but
assistant, I mean, in
Right,
essence, he
right,
is,
he's
but
not
he's a true transaction
He's not gonna
coordinator.
put my receipts in QuickBooks.
But he doesn't wanna do that, right?
Right, you don't want to, so.
For those of you guys who have families, I don't know if you use, a family calendar at all, but, my family uses this app called Cozy, C-O-Z-I, and I love it because I, every week, put my stuff in there, the kids put their stuff in there, and then it's not my calendar that I use for work. And so it's kind of, it's so that they can see what I'm doing on, like, say if I'm going out, you know, after work for a work event, or I have a listing appointment, they can see all that stuff, and it really makes them feel part of what's happening, you know, in the family, and they're old, they have their own phones, they're old enough, you know, so they know every week that they have to input what their schedule looks like for extracurricular activities and stuff, yeah.
Key.
So the biggest thing, takeaway for me was 2 years ago, I read The Miracle Morning, and you mentioned about getting up at 4:30, and, I want to say last week, I started getting up around that time and getting in the office here by like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I accomplished more things, like 11 o'clock, I'm like done with everything, I'm like, wow, I should be doing more things, so that was a big aha for me.
Yeah, like I'm done for the day at this point, unless I had a listing appointment to go to. I'm pretty much, because if you think about it, if you're up at 4:30 and you're starting, like, I can get in the office by 7:30. And so really by 1 or 2, I start to fade anyway, you know, because if you're up at 4:30, but it's a very, do you feel accomplished? And we're more aware when we're earlier in the day, for
Yeah.
sure, right?
Yeah.
So, good.
I was just gonna say that the changes in your business and the structure of your business and how you just have to look at it, reevaluate, continually looking at it, and how you have assistants, transaction coordinators, and they change, and some are licensed, some are, just the dynamics of how you just have to change all the time and evaluate where you are and then see what's fitting and what isn't.
And it's not easy, and it's always changing, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And we learn from it. I mean, I've made so many mistakes. But most people, I know a lot of people who have teams, they will say their biggest mistake, hiring, right?
And we're also lucky too, because like my admin does both, transaction coordinating and assistant admin stuff. Let's say something happened to her, I know that I can, you know, pass everything back. I mean, there's people that can pick us up for other pieces of
Yeah.
art.
Well, it's also putting the systems in place and having, like, we worked really hard to have a manual now, that in the event that something happens to Leslie, everything is right there.
Yeah. Are you filming this?
Oh,
Hey! I'm like, I just been holding that.
I know.
The same
Okay.
way.
But you're not putting it out on Facebook or anything like that. Please don't.
Are you Facebook Live? I think someone did ask to.
Todd Duvall did, but I didn't see him in here. He wanted to, you can save it and then we can chuckle about it one day.
Any other questions? I think we're done.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, Erin.